Welcome into another edition of Steve on Your Side on 9 News Plus. I'm 9 News consumer investigator Steve Steger. This week, a story about Zelle that got our attention. A retired high school English teacher reached out to us to teach you a lesson. She thought she was selling an old bike on Facebook Marketplace, got connected with someone, that person was interested in the bike, said they wanted to pay for it right away, and before she knew it, she was out $2,000. We found that federal regulators have been trying to work with Zelle for a while to make it a less friendly place for fraudsters.
Oh, it's right.
It was an effort to do the right thing.
We're just downsizing. You know what the Europeans call death cleaning? Taking responsibility for cleaning out your messes instead of leaving it for your kids.
But Susan Winery says,
"Are you sure you need to clean?"
It went terribly wrong.
I've been selling things on Facebook Marketplace the whole time we've lived here. I have never had an issue.
Susan listed a bike her husband doesn't use anymore for $100.
I received a Facebook message from a gentleman. He said that his sister was not on Facebook, but she wanted to buy this bike. And he gave me a phone number and asked me to text her.
They texted. She asked if Susan had Zelle.
I said, first mistake, you'll have to talk me through it.
Then she got an email she thought was from Zelle,
telling me that since I haven't had an active account, I would have to activate my account.
The texter guided her to pay the money to a strange account with a strange phone number. She said it was a business account that she shared.
You're going to basically send me the $500 to establish the account, and then I'm going to give you $600.
But then emails kept coming. $500 wasn't enough to authenticate her account, it said. She needed to dump in $1,500 more.
The back of my head knew the whole time. Don't ask me why I played into that, but I did.
How much are you out?
$2,000.
$2,000.
Yeah.
For a $100 bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty prevalent.
Elizabeth Anaskevich is a consumer protection attorney who used to work as an enforcement attorney for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The CFPB sued Zelle in December of last year, calling the platform an attractive vehicle for fraud.
There have been hundreds of millions of dollars of complaints by some of the largest banks.
The new administration dropped that lawsuit, a move that Zelle at the time applauded, calling the original complaint legally and factually flawed. Anaskevich says Zelle and the banks have made some improvements in fraud prevention since, but it's still pretty prevalent. So in the meantime, users need to be careful.
Never send money to someone that you do not know.
I am so angry at myself.
Susan did what you're supposed to do. She immediately reported the transaction to Zelle, her bank, and the police. She doesn't think that money is coming back. So in the meantime, this retired English teacher wants to be a lesson for all of us.
If I can fall for it, somebody who's much needier, having much more of a struggle in their lives than I am, is going to get taken.
Susan's headache continued after she reached out to the police because the police said they needed information about the account the money went to from Susan's account. So she contacted Zelle. Zelle told her to go to her bank. She went to her bank. They told her to contact Zelle. She went to Zelle again. Zelle told her to go to the bank. In fact, it took us getting involved and asking Zelle why they couldn't provide that information to her for a customer service representative from Zelle to get in touch with her and get her the information. There's a pretty common reaction to stories like this. People often say, how could someone fall for something like that? And I'm beginning to sound like a broken record because I've said over and over again how sophisticated these scams are and how they just keep getting better and better and better. I sat down with Susan to go through some of the messages she was receiving from this person who said they wanted her bike and the emails that she was getting that looked like they were real emails from Zelle.
This is from Zelle?
Mm-hmm.
But this is not really Zelle.
Right.
You have a pending payment of $100 USD. We ought to have credited your account now, but we noticed that your account is new, which has limit to what you can. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, this one didn't send up a red flag. Why would Zelle send and say, no, you can't send this money to this person because this goes to this person? That's pretty sophisticated. Name mismatch detected. Use caution. Oh, here's where it starts getting a little bit iffy.
Yeah, the amount of color here is they're using a lot of color. For your account to be credited fully with the sum of $600, you're required to send the sum of $500 first So we congratulate you for successfully upgrading your account to business user, which gives you unlimited access.
And then we have our little step-by-step procedure.
That sounds official enough.
We'll get you to the one
Okay.
that's not. Okay, now we're to the $1,500 piece.
You are hereby to pay the certificate form fee of Zelle of $1,500, which has been deducted from the buyer account, so that we can start processing the funds. We credited
Ooh.
the sum of $2,100.
Because I'm going to get $100 for my trouble.
And you're sitting here going,
Now, here we get this from Zelle,
Yeah.
just confirming that your payment has finished processing. Aren't they something?
yeah, but I mean, this all looks real. It has the little Zelle logo next to it.
Here's the kicker. We encounter a little problem. The minute it said we encounter a little problem, oh yeah.
They know
want
you're
more.
in, they want more.
Yeah, they want more. Oh, I supposedly sent this to Zelle support.
Yeah. You see the email? onlinerep.zellepay@gmail.com. Yeah.
Another person who will tell you just how sophisticated these schemes are getting is consumer protection attorney Elizabeth Anaskevich. She used to be on the front lines. She was once an enforcement attorney for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau until everyone kind of lost their jobs back in February. Now she's in private practice, but she sat down with us to talk about how big this problem is and give you some tips on what to look out for.
Thanks for taking the time. So let's first talk about how prevalent is this fraud on Zelle?
I think that one reason that Zelle is sort of a playground for fraudsters and scammers to operate is because of some of the infrastructure of Zelle itself. So one of the primary design elements that lends itself to fraud and scammers is that in order to create a Zelle account, usually you have a bank account, but to verify it, all you need to do is provide an email address and a phone number, and you get a one-time passcode. We're all familiar with this process. You confirm the passcode, now you're on Zelle. But that there is no real individual identification authorization going on. So I could create an email that says, customer service at XYZ Bank, get a one-time passcode. That is now the email that anyone who sends me money on Zelle sees. So they may think I'm the legitimate bank that they're operating, that they're talking to. And you can have up to 5 email accounts with every one deposit account. It used to be 20. Recently, it has gone down to 5, but that benefits scammers in many ways. You could have 5 scams going on where you're impersonating 5 different businesses. You can keep scamming when one email gets shut down. You can create an email pretty quickly if you've got a consumer on the line who you're about to make a victim. And I should say there's 2,200 institutions on Zelle. So if you can have 5 emails with every deposit account at that many institutions, you can see how this is an easy way for scammers and fraudsters to play around.
What was the attempt to get something done here, and then what happened to that?
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau filed a lawsuit against Zelle and some of the largest banks that operate on the platform in late December of 2024 to address many of these issues with the change in administration and the sort of dismantling that we're seeing of the CFPB. That enforcement action has been dropped. And a reason that that is concerning to me is because I will say Zelle and the participating banks have been making improvements. There's still a lot more to do, but the incentive to do that when you do not have a federal regulator really doing anything, in fact, dropping a case against you to try to get you to fix these issues, it's just simply not there. And so I think consumers need to be more vigilant than ever when using Zelle or other payment, peer-to-peer payment platforms.
How should I use it safely?
Never give that one-time pay code to anyone, because a scammer can also make you think that they're a legitimate business and say, hey, what's that one-time pay code? And then they can take over your account if you have given them information, and they can start sending money to their own account from your Zelle. So never give that information to anyone. Never give your email or your phone number associated with Zelle, let alone the one-time passcode that you get. If you are feeling suspicious about anything, call the bank. And any bank number that you use should be from the bank's website. Do not call a number that has been texted to you through any other medium other than the bank's website or the number on the back of a card that you have from the bank. And don't worry about feeling silly. If you feel suspicious, call the bank and ask if everything is okay. They're probably not going to judge you, but if they do, who cares? You're keeping money in your pocket. And you've got to be vigilant these days.
Zelle would never ask you, hey, pay us $500 just so we can make sure you're a legitimate person.
This is a common scheme. It's called a me-to-me fraud. So there's sort of a few buckets of fraud that we see often on Zelle. One is unauthorized fraud, where you have not authorized any money to go out the door. So this happens if someone hacks your phone, hacks your account, takes over your account. You can usually get your money back there because that's fraud as the bank is going to consider it. There's also something called induced fraud, which this scheme kind of falls under, where you have said, yeah, I'll send the money. I've authorized the transfer of money, but it's under false pretenses. So we see that often with something that doesn't exist, like a concert ticket or a puppy. Those are really common schemes. A romance scheme where you think you're in a relationship with someone and you're sending them money to help. They don't exist in that capacity. Or you think you're dealing with a legitimate business who's asking you for money. That's kind of what's going on here. And then a flavor of that scheme is called a me-to-me scheme. So the fraudster is parading as a business entity that you think you're corresponding with. They've probably done this by that easy registration that we talked about through an email that looks real to you. And they're saying, we have this account. It's your account. For whatever reason, whatever story they make up, you have to send the money to that, but it's your account. So it will be yours. It's fine. The consumer does that. It's not their account. It's an individual fraudster's account parading under an email address for a legitimate business.
One of the things that struck me talking to her is she says, like, I thought I was smarter than this, right? I've got a master's. She was an English teacher, a high school English teacher. Like, she's got a master's degree. She's not someone who could be easily duped. Let's put it that way. But it seems like this is an infrastructure that's built to trick everybody.
I actually really respect that she acknowledged that with you, because I think that is a common human reaction of, well, that wouldn't happen to me. But none of us are immune to fraud and scams. And when we think we are, it's probably when you're most vulnerable. And these fraudsters and these scamsters, like, they're just gonna keep evolving their frauds and their scams. So even when we become aware of one, they will create another. And I don't want to give it to them, but they're pretty good at it. And so being vigilant, following those rules of you're not giving information to anyone that you do not know is the best way to protect yourself and to be extremely skeptical.
Zelle applauded the decision by the CFPB to drop that lawsuit, calling the original complaint legally and factually flawed. And on their website, they say that schemes and fraud are not a big part of what they do. They claim that 95% of the transactions that went through Zelle in the year 2023 didn't have a fraud report attached with them, and that the FTC's numbers show only about 2.5% of people report fraud through these peer-to-peer financial apps. We want to know if something like this happens to you, or you're having any sort of consumer problem. You can always email us, steveonyourside@9news.com. I'm 9 News consumer investigator Steve Steger. Until next time, thanks so much for watching.